Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask the Child Therapist. I'm Natasha Daniels, child therapist and creator at anxioustoddlers.com. Today I want to talk about how to help your shy child. I get lots of emails about what is the right way to approach parenting a shy or introverted child. So let's talk about that today. I also want to mention at the end of this video, I am going to answer Mary's question on why a 2-year-old would be pulling her hair out. I didn't think that I need to take a whole episode for that question, but I do want to get to that, Mary, so I will answer that at the very end. All right, stay tuned. All right, let's move on and talk about your introverted child. The first thing to know is that if you have an introverted child, it's not a parenting issue. There are kids, it's a temperament issue. And so we all have kids that have different types of temperament. We have outgoing kids, we have extroverted kids, we have shyer kids, and a little bit more introverted kids. And so our introverted kids are just, physiologically wired that way. But that doesn't mean that you can't help. I think the first thing to understand is that, most introverted kids are, not necessarily shy, they are uncomfortable around larger groups of people. And so typically if you get an introverted child one-on-one with a friend that they have known for a really long time or a family member they've known for a long time, they're laughing, they're talkative, and they're completely comfortable. It just happens to be like when you get into larger numbers that they have some hard times. So as a parent, how do you help with that? For starters, and I know this isn't going to be like an aha kind of thing to say, but you do have to accept your child for who they are. I'm an introverted adult, and I really didn't even realize that until I hit my 40s. And then I was like, oh wow, I'm really introverted. That's what that is. I didn't realize what that was before. I always thought that I was kind of outgoing. I'm completely not. I don't know why I didn't understand that. And I would say 1 out of the 3 of my children is more on the introverted side as well. And so I think it's important to realize, and I can say this being an introvert, that, people are who they are. And so if your child is not having an issue with their introvertism, I'm going to go ahead and make that a word because it is a word, I just can't pronounce it, then you shouldn't have a problem with it. I feel like the only issue is when they're having anxiety because they're introverted, and they're having anxiety because they have to be faced with new situations and new social situations that make them uncomfortable and anxious. That's when it's a concern. If they only have one best friend and you were, a social butterfly, and you're like, what's the deal? Like, why aren't you roaming around the neighborhood with like a zillion kids? Or, why aren't like 50 people coming to your birthday party? Then that's more a parent issue than a child issue. Because if your child is content with that one go-to friend or their one best friend, then it really isn't an issue. And as adults, we're like that too. You might have one solid best friend because you're more introverted, but you're happy. So let's go into the situations where they're not happy. And those are the areas that need fixing. The biggest tip I can give you is don't set your kids up for failure, because when you do, then they're less likely to try new situations again. And so if they're going to a big party or you're going to a big crowd, don't just drop them there and let them kind of sink or swim. You can help them by staying, depending on the kid's age, and getting them acclimated to the environment, maybe showing up really early. That definitely helps. And then that way they get to know the person at the party, and they get to see people coming in one by one, and they're not entering a large group of people. That also helps kids that I've worked with in my practice when they're going to school, especially like in the first month or 2 of school, to get there early. And sometimes schools will even be really nice and let you kind of put your child in the classroom and kind of get used to the teacher, and they get situated before that kind of like crowd of kids come. Or sometimes parents I work with will, go to the playground or wherever the kids kind of gather before school, and have them, get used to the playground area as the kids start to come. Because if I am sitting here as an introverted kid and the crowd is coming around me slowly, that's less overwhelming than if I'm an introverted kid and I'm walking into a large crowd. So that's something to think about. Secondly, you can build your child's confidence by scheduling one-on-one play dates or get-togethers. So if you're a really outgoing mom and you have like this play group, or you have like, all these friends, and you want all the kids to congregate and come and all play together, and your kid's clinging to you, then that's not working for your child. And so to build your child's social self-confidence, invite one parent or one mom and their kid over, or just one kid over, whatever your situation is, and let your child get used to that one friend over and over. And so the more that child comes over and they go over, they're going to build some social self-confidence because they're going to get used to that child and they're going to feel good about their social interactions. And then they're going to be more likely to branch out and make new friendships as well. But if they're introverted, it'll probably be one-on-one. It's not going to be like 5 friends at a time. And that's okay. Last tip for this video is go out of your way to not embarrass your children. Now, kids, depending on what age they are, can get embarrassed by pretty much anything. But introverted kids will be crushed and mortified by pretty simplistic stuff that parents do all the time. And so honor that with your child. And, if they tell you, hey, please don't do that around my friends, or, when you do that, that embarrasses me, be respectful, because their self-consciousness is real and it's not going to go away, because that's kind of the introverted model of how we think. There's a lot of concern about getting embarrassed. And so respect that with your child and go out of your way to maybe, don't shout their name, don't draw attention, don't talk about personal stories in front of their friends, because you don't know what's going to embarrass them. I remember just this past summer when I guess he was 6 at the time, my son, we're going to summer camp, and I thought I had at least a few more years before like the hugs and kisses went away. And he like mumbled to me and he's like, Mom, when we go into the cafeteria, because he had to go into this huge cafeteria with like tons of people watching to drop him off at this camp. He was like, please don't kiss me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Can I hug you? He's like, no, just say goodbye. And, emotionally, I didn't have a problem with that. I understand that. I don't take that personally, but it happened earlier than my 13-year-old hasn't said that to me even yet. And it happened because he is more of an introvert and he felt self-conscious. He felt like everyone's going to be staring at him. So the first couple of times was weird because I went to go kiss him and I was like, oh yeah, I can't do that. So I'd be like, okay, we'll see you later. And he thanked me afterwards. He's like, thank you for not doing that. I really appreciate it. You want your kids to feel like you get them. And even if you are not like them, at least you get them. So those are some 3 quick tips to get started. I have written a couple of articles on this, and so I'll leave the links below if you want some further reading and a couple of extra tips. To get back to your question, Mary, about the 2-year-old who is sleeping and pulling the front of their hair out, I would talk to your pediatrician about that. There is something called trichotillomania, which is a really huge word for just the compulsion to pull hair out. But I have seen in my practice toddlers who do that. And unfortunately with trichotillomania, and I'll put a link down of what this big word is that I'm saying, but it's an urge, an impulse to pull hair. It's physiological. And I have seen it in toddlers in my practice. So go talk to your pediatrician, because obviously I don't know your child and I'm not here to diagnose anybody, but you might want to research a little bit more about what that is. If any of you have any other questions, feel free to email me at anxioustoddlers@yahoo.com. I forgot my email for a second. Or feel free to leave a comment either on YouTube or on my website at anxioustoddlers.com. Until next time, I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.